1 minute, please. To start, I'd like to take an informal poll. Raise your hand if you've ever experienced any type of pain, numbness, tingling, soreness, or stiffness after playing your instrument. Wow, that is a lot of people. Looking around, you can see that you're not alone. I myself had the inconvenience of dealing with performance injury. In my 3rd year of college, I took almost 5 months off from playing flute due to developing carpal tunnel syndrome and tendonitis. While I'm grateful for everything I have learned through that experience, I could have avoided months of frustration, relearning how to play flute, and much anxiety along the way, had I been better informed and paid more attention to how to take care of myself as a musician and prevent overuse injuries. I hope that this presentation will heighten your awareness of the prevalence of performance injuries and that you will leave here today with just a few tools and resources to help yourself and your future students avoid going through what I went through. In a 2009 survey of 330 incoming freshman music students entering a university over 4 consecutive years, 79% of students reported some history of plane-related pain. This means that these college students must have experienced pain beginning in high school or earlier. Another survey indicated that between 1 and 2/3 of middle and high school level students experience pain whether or not they study privately. These statistics are cause for concern among any aspiring music educators and private teachers in this room. Early signs of pain can lead to conditions such as carpal tunnel syndrome, tendonitis, bursitis, thoracic outlet syndrome, and TMJ, to name a few, all of which can force a musician to pause or abandon their performing career, as well as affecting other non-musical areas of everyday life. Injury cases are usually caused by an interaction of multiple factors, such as posture, overall physical health, instrument setup, long practice intervals and insufficient breaks, extreme temperatures, and psychological stress. In the interest of time, I chose to focus on the basics of correct posture and how you can more effectively teach it to your students. Optimal posture is the position that balances the body weight so as to minimize stress applied to each joint and allow muscles to support the body most efficiently. For example, in this image on the left, a slumped posture puts the bones out of alignment and strains muscles in the lower back and neck. In contrast, this person on the right is sitting with the spinal line so that no muscles have to do excessive work to keep from falling over. Let's take a closer look at proper alignment. When looking straight on in a mirror, students should imagine a line through their center and look for symmetry. Most instruments require slightly asymmetrical posture somewhere, so it is helpful to check what happens when they pick up their instrument compared to without it. Adjustments in symmetry for holding the instrument should be as slight as possible. When looking from the side, an imaginary line can be drawn from the ears through the top of the arm bone, the middle of the thoracic spine, the hips, the knees, and the ankles. It is common for people to stand with their weight too far back in their heels, especially when compensating for the weight of the instrument. Rocking forward and back and noticing how weight is dispersed through the ankle into the front and back parts of the feet can help students correct this tendency. Alignment while sitting is particularly important since we sit to play in most ensembles. Raise your hand if at any point in your education you heard a teacher tell you to sit up straight or sit up tall. Again, a lot of people. Keep your hand up if you yourself have instructed students to sit up straight or tall. I admit I've done it too. While this common, simple instruction is met with good intentions of addressing posture, it can be problematic. Here we have a slouching student. Then we tell them to sit up straight, and most students will tend to overarch their lower back, which throws the spine out of alignment and causes excess tension. How do we get students to sit up without messing them up? The spine has four main sections that curve in opposite directions. The cervical spine curves in toward the body, while the thoracic spine curves out, the lumbar spine curves back in, and then the sacrum curves back out and down toward the tailbone. These natural curvatures should be maintained, but not overly exaggerated. Since the spine is not straight from the side, we should probably think twice before instructing students to simply sit up straight. Instead, we might ask them, is your spine properly aligned right now? Or is your weight balanced over your sit bones? It is also helpful to notice that the front of the vertebrae reach all the way to the center of the abdomen. Students might have their weight too far backward if they think of the spine only as part of their back, but thinking of the front of the vertebrae will help them balance through their center. If students are taught about the position of the spine and its natural curvatures, they can begin the process of finding a well-balanced and aligned position for themselves that can ultimately allow them to play their instruments more easily rather than causing them tension. With all this information about alignment, you might be thinking, wait, am I sitting the right way? Your students would likely react the same way if they start trying too hard to line themselves up however you instruct them. This is an essential dilemma about posture. If we try to stand one correct way while we play, we will inevitably get stiff, tense, tired, and sore. This is because it is harder for muscles to sustain weight in one position, in other words, static loading, than to move weight through a range of motion, in other words, dynamic movement. Think of going to the gym and holding a barbell above your head for 20 to 30 minutes. You would get tired and you would probably give up long before that. Even if you make it, you would be noticeably sore the next day. The same thing happens to your muscles when playing an instrument, or even just standing and supporting your body weight. The longer you hold a position, the more strain you put on your body. You might not feel it while you're playing, but the effects can add up over time and lead to injury. On the other hand, the more you move, even subtly, the better your muscles can function. This relates to how muscles access and burn energy. Muscles can get their fuel in two ways, from stores of energy in the muscle itself or from the liver and fat. The energy in the muscles will get depleted in a few seconds, and if you start using your muscles cold, the energy from elsewhere is not immediately available. It must travel to your muscles via the bloodstream, which means that physically warming up to get blood flow to the muscles is essential if you want your students and yourself to be able to sustain any posture without harming the body. If it was only our embouchure muscles that we needed to warm up for playing, then we wouldn't have pain in all our other body parts. Warm-ups must get blood flowing to the extremities that hold our instruments and the postural muscles that hold up ourselves. Muscles also must burn the energy that they use. This can occur with or without the presence of oxygen. With oxygen, 10 times more energy can be released, but without oxygen, residues accumulate in the muscle, which can cause soreness and pain. If you want to release more energy and avoid tension, you again need blood flow to supply oxygen. One way to increase blood flow during playing is to take rest breaks to change position, move around, and stretch. Experts suggest a ratio of 5 minutes of rest for every 30 minutes of playing. Teachers should take this into account in their lesson planning. Schedule a 5-minute break in the middle of rehearsal to do some group movement and stretching, and students will likely demonstrate better posture and play better for the remainder of the rehearsal. Also consider alternating between sitting and standing during rehearsal. Although it sounds unconventional, it will help students more than it will hurt them. Another way to maintain blood flow is to incorporate micro movements and short rests into your continuous posture. We tend to use language that implies students must maintain one good posture for an entire class, like sit still or keep your fingers curved. Instead, we can encourage them to think of posture as a dynamic concept involving many small adjustments. A good analogy is a tube-beam balance, which wobbles slightly every time you move it or add weight before reaching equilibrium. If you're interested in learning more about posture, movement, other biological aspects of music performance, or injury prevention, the Performing Arts Medicine Association is one good source for research. There's also a good selection of books in our music library that helped me gather information for this project. Other specialties that promote healthier body usage in music are Alexander Technique, body mapping, Feldenkrais, dynamic integration, yoga, and other exercise programs. This information has been geared toward preventing injuries, but I must emphasize that if you or your students do encounter playing-related pain, you should first consult qualified medical professionals who can determine a diagnosis and recommend appropriate treatment. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them as best I can or refer you to a resource. Thank you.